and then Jamie, what's your song? Do TNT, ACDC TNT?
So I was between Running with the Devil and Crazy Train. I'll let you decide.
Ooh. God, I remember MTV years. That shit, they used to play that shit over and over again.
Yeah, but
And I was
dude, listen, I feel like it's easy to go with Ozzy now. Everybody loves Ozzy now. You know what I mean?
It
Like,
is easy. That is the easy choice. I agree.
right? It was like before. There was a time when you selected Ozzy, you might as well have been telling everybody that you fucking did drugs and were going to jail.
But we could go B side and go War Pigs, which would be kind of amazing.
like, that's powerful.
That's a serious statement.
Yeah, you ain't fucking around.
Hey,
with
that's
that.
a real fucking.
You might want to retract that statement.
Nah, man, War Pigs is good because it's a protest song, man. Like it's still valid. All right, let's do War Pigs. I like that.
But
Although
David Lee Roth is.
You know, why are you doing this to me, man? I almost made a decision. This fucking Jamie threw us like a dilemma.
Like,
That train wreck at the beginning of Running with the Devil is that good, right?
It is, and it's almost like a lot of Special K.
Yes.
Special K is our like Gen Z intern, right? Real green, like super green. What do you know about what's your favorite Van Halen song?
I don't really listen to Van Halen.
Dude, what's your favorite Van Halen song?
He doesn't listen.
I don't listen to them
At all?
Do you know who do you know who David Lee Roth is?
No.
Have you ever heard
What?
Jump?
Might as well jump.
No.
Running with the Devil? Running with the Devil?
What about
Look at his face.
Panama?
I don't know what that is either.
Hot for Teacher? No.
Gen Z ain't alone.
Hot for Teacher?
Look at his face,
No.
right? I love it.
Not even Sammy Hagar fucking
Have you ever
Halen.
been in like a arena, like a sports arena?
I've been to concerts. I've been to different concerts. Not
What
sports
about
events.
like you never been to like a sports thing where they play like songs like
No. I haven't had the chance.
You've never.
Yeah, we've been on fucking coronavirus. He hasn't.
Oh, he's only lived a fucking year?
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's when he got into music.
That's when he finally broke out of school. They had fucking pandemic.
Let's kick this story. Let's start the show.
All right, let's do
All
it.
right.
You ready?
Yes.
God damn, I can't believe that. All right.
You can't
Believe it.
Steve.
Face with hard luck, hard shots, thieves, murderers with hard luck, pimps and card shots, thieves, murderers with hard luck. We all product, face with hard luck, face with hard luck, hard shots, thieves, murderers with hard luck, pimps and card shots, thieves, murderers with hard luck.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Hard Luck Show. I'm your qualified, certified West Side host, Steve Lucky Luciano. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, you've tuned into the greatest show on earth. It's the Hard Luck Show. Coming at you from the bunker in Southern California. Sitting on my left, my co-host and my partner.
Chumahan Bowen, American Indian, Southern Californian, elegant barbarian. Here to cause controversies once again.
Stick it to the man.
Yahtzee, yah.
If you die for your people.
Yahtzee, yah.
If you see through the evil.
Yahtzee, yah. Come on. Let's get tribal up in here. Let's get tribal. Come on. Let's fucking
Scalp somebody right now.
Let's fucking boil some people. Let's fucking boil them. Turn them up. Build a fire under their head.
Yeah.
And on sound.
Oh, Blue Eyes himself.
Sean Lewis.
Oh shit.
Certified.
Oh shit.
Damn, G.
Engineer.
Come on.
What a hard show.
Come on.
Oh yeah.
Come on.
Oh yeah.
The man after my own heart.
Come on.
You could put David Bowie on every intro and I'd be happy about it.
Come on. Hey, Special K, what you know about David Bowie?
What you know about David Bowie?
I do.
I
do know about
I do know about it. Come on.
Damn right.
Almost like. You're just like a sniper.
Yeah, come on. All right. You know,
All right. And we got our fantastic intern, Gen X.
Gen Z.
Gen Z.
Yeah, Gen Z.
I think me and him are Gen X.
Yeah, you got
Yeah, we're Gen X.
Gen Z. Our intern, Special K. Welcome to the show, Special K.
Woo, hello.
Woo, hello. Woo, hello. We have some, yeah. Yeah. Woo, that's the mood right there.
Yeah, that's Special K. Okay, hey, Special K.
Yes.
Dorizzle.
Yeah.
By the way, before we get into everything, one of our listeners cracked the code for Dorizzle. It was for Dora the Explorer. That was Special K's nickname as a kid, Dora the Explorer. Is that right, Special K?
Yeah, I said it on the show.
Oh, you
Dora
already said it.
the Explorer.
Dora the Explorer. And it was because why you had a...
Bowl cut hair. Yeah.
Dora.
Oh, my God.
Okay, you go down.
I had a bowl cut too.
This is Dora the Explorer, Chicken Dance.
They used to confuse you with her?
No, they just call me that because I had bowl cut.
Okay.
Yeah, that means yes. That's
Yes, yes. Dora. That's
Dora.
Dora.
What is this?
This is Dora the Explorer, dude.
I remember that shit from when my daughter was young. Dora the Explorer. Yeah. It's a little weird.
Guess what? This is your other
Kinda
daughter.
weird.
Special K's your other daughter. Here we
Hey,
go.
my daughter used to play with you.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Let's
So,
stop playing
Shuman,
games. Let's stop playing fucking games.
can we do some introductions of our guests today?
I'm gonna try. I'm
Okay.
trying to. I'm trying
We got
to
a
get
couple
to.
guests.
We got some serious. First, I think we need to. First of all, we're friends with Danny Murillo.
That's right.
Right.
Danny Murillo from Underground Scholars,
Right.
which is an organization that's helping incarcerated men and women,
Right.
eventually get degrees and get into college and universities, and he's helped us get different guests on the show, right? Some ex-lifers,
And some ex-lifers. He's also talked about his personal story.
perhaps his journey, yeah,
Right. All the whole thing. Right.
from formerly incarcerated people.
Right.
I mean, he's great. He's a
Right.
great friend of our shows. He's a supporter, and he helps produce some of the and get some of these guests on the show.
Right. So he's opened the vault.
Yes.
Right.
Mhm.
He's opened the vault and he's let out a caged beast to the show. A gentleman that needs no introduction, but just by virtue of convention, we have to introduce him. Right. It's a gentleman who listened to a CD so long that his woman told him to give it up. He's tired of listening to that album, Mr. Frankie Guzman.
Frankie Guzman.
Right?
Yeah.
Frankie Guzman.
What's going on, fellas? Let the jam play. Come on. Where's my intro song?
It's coming.
Oh.
Look at that. Look at that. What's that scene behind you, Frankie?
That's Oakland skyline. Up and coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, Frankie Guzman. Don't dirty the shoes, man.
Guzman for straight G's.
Don't step on the shoes,
Put
man.
a G on it.
Right. Ah.
That's right.
Who else we got?
And then we've got a real, this guy already threw us for a loop because we asked him, we're like, hey bro, what do you want us to play? And he threw out two names that basically made Blue Eyes cross. Right? Like Blue Eyes, he got a fucking headache trying to figure out.
Blue Eyes started lactating. when
Yeah,
did
he
that.
was like, holy shit. And we started yelling shit at
Nipples got all wet.
and so it was between.
He got dried milk stains now on his fucking shirt.
Yeah. His nipples, the top of his nipples look like dried Fruit Loops, right? Like dried Fruit Loops, crusty and weird. Okay.
Look like busted fucking hibiscus flowers on top. Go ahead, let's introduce this guest.
His nipples look like like the baboon's ass. You know,
Right,
have you ever
right,
seen
right.
his
All
baboon?
red and
yeah, all
irritated.
red and irritated. Wait a minute. Let's get back to the story.
Yeah.
This guy, Jamie, and we're picking for him a very historical cut.
Yeah.
Listen up, Special K.
See this kid.
Oh shit.
Yeah. I feel like I'm in junior high right now. Fuck
Fucking back when smoking was cool.
Yeah.
Remember when you
Yeah.
could smoke cigarettes? God damn. Remember that? Yeah.
No tomorrow.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man. Good shit.
That is good shit.
Good shit.
Right.
All right. Boy, I saw those guys in '83 at the Forum.
Van Halen
Yeah, '83. Yeah, I think it was '82 or '83
at the Forum.
at the Forum. Like a year after I saw Kiss at the Forum. Yeah,
Nice.
Jesus Christ. What was
Yeah.
that like?
off the fucking hinges, bro. Like there's nothing like it.
How old were you?
12 and 13.
And you were
Yeah.
going, and I mean, was
No, we had a chaperone go with us
Oh.
to the first show. It was my cousin's mom,
Yeah.
and then on the second show we had to go with a cousin that
Right.
was older that was bringing us the show. But still, Van Halen, bro, man, God,
Did
damn.
David Lee Roth came out on stage?
Hell yeah, bro.
Was he
And-
jumping around?
Fuck yeah, doing splits and fucking
Kids.
tearing open his fucking leather pants and all that shit, man.
And he had those crazy like tiger
running
pants
around with
and
a
shit?
fucking bottle of Jack in his hand on the stage.
Oh
and
my
fucking-
God.
Yeah, it was awesome, brother. Awesome.
Well, hey,
Anyways,
yeah, Jamie, Frankie, guys, thank you for joining the show, man.
Thank you for having
Damn,
us.
doggy.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
For our guests, I think for our guests, if you could do a little 30-second exactly what you do, because I'd like to get both our guests online with both of you
Well-
guys as we go ahead.
Well, no, that's cool, but I
Yeah.
kind of wanted to know, why are we having two at a time first? Like, what was up with why is it two at a time, guys? Jamie, Frankie, why is it two at a time?
Great question.
I don't know. I mean, we were asked to come on, and yeah, I have no idea.
Special K, can you explain this?
Special K,
Were you supposed to separate these guys?
No,
Is-
I asked if we
Because
just
Danny Murillo said.
Yeah, Danny said.
Ah,
Amarillo said it.
all
All
right.
right, so then, okay, knowing you guys know the intense mind of Danny Murillo, Cigarillo Murillo, what do you think was the reason he decided like it would be a good to do a package deal here?
Well, Frankie and I are involved in trying to help folks who were formerly incarcerated become attorneys. And about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, we started a group called the California System Involved Bar Association. And it's a bar association for formerly incarcerated system involved folks. So maybe that's why we're here together.
I love that.
Man, that's
I
dope,
love
brother.
that. Dude, first of all,
Give the power back to the people.
I'm an attorney and I can tell you firsthand, a lot of my colleagues should have gone to prison. Like they should have gone to prison. A lot of the guys that I know should have been in prison. What is the challenges? What are the challenges that face a guy who is a former convict or whatever? What kind of challenges does he or she face when they get out and they go to school and they even go to law school? They even get accepted to law school. How hard is the process once they've done all that to become an attorney?
Frankie, you want me to do it?
Yeah.
So I think, I mean, in terms of becoming an attorney, right, the bar exam, California is notoriously the hardest one in the country. So there's that obstacle. But then there's also, for folks like us who've been inside, there's also this extra piece, which is you got to prove to the bar, right, that you're of good moral character. And that can be difficult if you spent any time in prison. You know, the presumption is you aren't. And so what we try to do is to help folks in those hearings and with the moral character process, you know, successfully navigate it, because that is going to be the biggest obstacle to licensure.
Go ahead.
Are you telling me?
Go ahead, because I know this is gonna fucking blow your mind.
Yeah, it's gonna blow
Are
your
you
mind.
fucking telling me that not only do you have to fucking pass the bar,
Yes.
but now you got to prove, even though you fucking spent your time
Oh yes.
studying like a motherfucker
Oh yes.
to pass one of the hardest tests this nation has to offer,
Oh yes.
that now you have to prove to some fucking board of fucking white guys probably
Yeah, for sure.
Oh yes.
that you're okay, that you're a good standing moral citizen.
No,
Yeah,
wait.
that you're a
Before,
good human being, that you're worth.
wait. Before you guys even do that, because that's true. That's another bullshit thing, right?
Right.
And let me tell you something. When I got out of law school, there was a couple of my classmates that had DUIs, that had little petty bullshit that
Yeah.
was going to get in the way of them passing that moral application test. But when you start thinking about that, put your brain on this. What is the reputation of attorneys? What is their
We're all liars. We're all liars.
scumbags, right?
Right, scumbag.
Yeah, for
Total
sure.
scumbags.
I mean, I'll even go further, man. I mean, I went to UCLA School of Law, and you know, I went there, and most of the white kids were on Adderall and cocaine on the weekends.
Right.
And
Right.
I remember having to, prepare for the moral character. So it's like when people say the bar exam, there is a test, but but to pass the bar, the process, it also involves a background check, right? And so I had to dig into my life and explain things that I did 15 years ago, and it was, a very emotional and I would say triggering process, knowing that. I mean, think about for all your listeners out there that are lifers, right? The parole process, having two commissioners who are already inclined to not believe anything you fucking say,
Same
and,
thing.
and what you do say, they're gonna criticize as if you don't have enough insight. The same is true with the moral character. You have to prove to people that you've changed, and sometimes there's no way to prove the negative, right? Like, how can I show that I'm no longer bad because doing good isn't enough, right? And so having, for example, when I went through the process, they wanted to know, like, did I do AA, NA, and go through, that whole thing? And I said, no, like, for me, I grew up a kid, disadvantaged, smoked weed, committed crimes, got out, did well. And I explained to them, like, it was a developmental issue, depression, anxiety, lack of hope. I smoked weed, and I got to law, I got to college, and college became my anti-drug, right? And so now I'm talking 15 years later, I'm on a straight path. I'm doing well, and I have to explain what I did 15 years ago, and they want to see the formalities. Like, did I do AA? Like, no, what fucking 15-year-old goes to AA? Like, I can't show you that unless you want me to lie and forge some shit. And so it was like a catch-22. I can't get ahead if I can't show them, and I can't show them what I didn't do. And so it was impossible. And so for me, I lawyered up. I got pro bono counsel from Morrison and Forrester because Jamie might have still been in. I don't know where Jamie was in 2012, honestly.
I was still on parole, man. I
he was
wasn't
still on
on prison
parole.
anyway.
He was still a
By the way,
scumbag. He was still peeing in a cup.
Yeah, monthly.
He says that like he was at a birthday party. He's like, I was still on parole, man.
But just so I get a timeline down, both of you are formerly incarcerated gentlemen.
Mhm.
How long have both of you two been out of prison?
I've been out since, so I spent a little over 4 years inside for a DUI homicide back on the East Coast. I was locked up outside of Philly, and I got out in 04 June, maxed out in 07 May.
Okay. And Frank?
Yeah, and I spent 6 years in the California Youth Authority, and the last year that I did was in 2004. I got a YTS, and I transferred to UC Berkeley a year later. And while I was in Berkeley, I got my fourth driving on a suspended license, so I had to do 10 days in county jail. Oh, actually in Sonoma County. So that was actually the last time I was incarcerated. Was maybe 05, 06, but really like state DJJ was 04.
All right, but hold on a second, guys. Like, back up for a second, and let's really take in what Frankie and Jamie are talking about. Like, when you do the moral app, right? You got people who are digging into your past and about like AA, NA, like shit like that, right?
They want to show. They want you to show, but how do you show? As I said before, like, how do you demonstrate that you've changed? And the only thing that they can look to is some program that not everybody's issue is alcohol, right? Like mine, like I said, was other things. I would say, yeah.
Like, forget all that. Think about the level of hypocrisy. Because let me ask you a question, Steve. What's the reputation for lawyers in sobriety?
The even bigger scumbag.
Right, they're drunks.
Yeah.
The whole reason people become lawyers and judges is so they can drink on the job and no one's going to question it.
Right.
You're supposed to drink. I'm an attorney. I had a law professor who wouldn't give me notes because I was sober. And he said, you don't drink, I don't trust you. The law professor.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Right? So those type people, they're going to open the door for you to fucking become a scumbag lawyer who's going to lie for a living and be allowed to drink on the job. But before you can do that, you got to prove to me that you went to NA and AA back when you were 15. Think about that. Am I crazy, guys? Is that wrong?
No, but the truth is the law is an elitist profession, it's the old boys network, white power rules, and they're not going to just let anybody in that club. And so it's like the rules they make, and I'll even go further, right? It's like a lot of our members in the System Involved Bar Association and people that are aspiring lawyers, like it's a mind fuck, right? You go through the many of them are young, right? When they get caught up, and then, they become adults and navigate through college, and then they get to law school and even college applications. They ask, have you ever been arrested or convicted of something? And in juvenile court, they tell you you were not convicted. This is, first of all, juvenile court is confidential, so
Right.
people shouldn't know about that. Second, the outcomes in the juvenile court system, which are civil in nature, are not convictions, they're adjudications. And so they tell you can check no. So then when they get to college or law school applications and they they answer what they think is a true answer, which is no, I've never been convicted, they get penalized, right? And some law schools have caught on to that. And so on the one hand, you get punished for what they consider lying to them, which isn't a lie, that you answered truthfully.
Right.
But even if they expand the question to have you ever been arrested, now in my view, like that is bad public policy, because we're asking people to reveal things that are confidential in nature. If the juvenile court was designed to protect kids from the stigma and by kind of preventing the limitation on their future prospects for life and success because of this, the confidentiality, then why the fuck is the state bar asking these questions? Like, what is it to you? We have already accepted that young people do things that they should not be held, to account for many decades later. So let it go. But here, I think it's one, the message we tell people is you don't have to disclose this. But then you get to the state bar and they say, yeah, we actually don't care about confidentiality, and we don't care if this is not a conviction. We just want to know how many times have you been in contact with police? And they don't really recognize in many communities, man, you contact police sometimes daily.
All the time.
Yeah,
And you
all
can
the
be
time.
arrested 5 times for something you didn't do.
You didn't do.
That's the point. Listen, I've seen it. I've seen people get arrested because they were just with somebody and they legit had nothing to do with anything. Right?
Or you talk back to the cop by availing yourself of your rights. You say the same things that the white folks say on TV. I don't want to talk. Am I free to go? Like, come here, you little motherfucker, you little smart ass, and you end up being locked up.
Yeah, and
Go
sorry,
ahead. Go ahead,
yeah,
Jim.
I'll take it a step further. I mean, you back up the timeline. It happens at the law school admissions process too. I mean, so I just did a study of nationwide of all law schools, and what kinds of questions they asked. I mean, it's roughly 70% ask about juvenile convictions, right, which they shouldn't, and it's roughly 60 to 70% ask about arrests that never led to any charges. Right. So on the front end, you have this sort of gatekeeper. You go through school, you pass the hardest test in the country. Then you got the back end gatekeeper for moral character. And so what we didn't talk about, I mean, what I do in my practice is simply I represent folks with records who try to navigate this moral character process. So I deal with bringing them in there and trying to figure out, okay, how can we show that you're no longer the person arguably that committed that crime, right? And what they want to see is, time since. But it isn't enough, as Frankie said, to just say, hey, it's been 12 years and I haven't had one dust up. That's not enough.
What's interesting, bro, is
you got
that
to prove
you guys-
affirmative stuff,
You know what, Jamie, is interesting is because you guys sound much like in-house, or I should call institutional attorneys, in the sense that I was on yards where dudes were maybe coming up for parole after serving life sentences, right? And they didn't know how to answer the right questions, and they were being denied for prison, right?
Yeah, I mean, these are parole hearings. I mean, that's what they are. I mean, essentially, right? I mean, I saw the parole man, right? Because I was in an indeterminate state where I had to ask to be let out at my minimum, right? And I go in and I rumbled my case. And the first question is, are you sorry for what you did? Yeah. Did you do it? Yeah. Well, then why'd you rumble your case? Wait, what do you mean? It's my constitutional right to be able to go to trial. Right. Yeah, but if you know you did it and you're sorry for doing it, why did you put your victim through that and go to trial? And how do you answer something like that? I mean, you're in a corner, right?
Right. And they trick, and there's a lot of that. And I remember other lifers that had either gotten out or came back or whatever they might have done. They kind of corralled around these dudes and they taught them how to go into a parole hearing. After the third and fourth denial, these guys are finally getting found suitable for parole, but it was about the questions they were answering and how the board wanted them to respond. Forget about truth or any of that. You got to put on a certain act.
Right.
so that they will believe you and let you go.
Right. And
Well, full disclosure, I never counsel anyone to lie.
of
Right,
course
okay.
not.
Let's get that on the record.
It was almost like,
But how you tell a story is an important,
mean by
right? I mean, that's
Exactly,
important.
brother. And this
what's
is
the
like
definition of
this
a
is
lie?
like if nobody coached you on going in, you could fuck off a whole bunch of dates until some people got around you and was like, all right, bro, this is what they want to hear. This is what, you know what I'm saying? So it's like,
Yeah.
these guys are doing that for the bar after they
Right.
get out. But it's the same type of like, nobody read you the rules, bro.
No, but
We'll
see,
sit
look, this is what it's really about.
Mm.
Because what you just said is true. It's not about the truth. It's not about the truth. It's about, can you conform to the rules that we are prescribing to you? Are you going to act the way that we've prescribed you need to act?
Mm-hmm.
If you can get yourself in line with our program, then we're going to start looking at, okay, then you've passed the test, that maybe now you can go out there. But it is about conforming. It's about learning the code, and it's about performing that code voluntarily, or at least looking as though you're doing it voluntarily, so that they can say, yeah, you're out there. And when it's moral character app shit that's with the bar, you got to understand too, the shit that Jamie and Frankie, they might have convicted them of or accused them of, right? You can, once you become an attorney, some of those same charges will not knock you out of being
That's true. That's 100% true.
Is that right, Jamie? Can you
100%.
speak that a little bit? Like, what's the
Yeah.
double standard there?
Yeah, it's so the moral sort of hurdle is far higher to become an attorney than it is once you're an attorney if you have some sort of misconduct, right? So it's a lot harder to get your license from jump than it is to lose it later on. I mean, I've represented lawyers who've had misconduct, a few, not many. Mostly I have represent law students, but I will tell you that they are received far more cordially than are my law school applicants that have been inside for a number of years and really want to become lawyers. Which I've never understood that, but that's just the way it is.
I mean, listen, I'm going to straight up tell you, you guys have put it right up on the head. My dad was also an attorney. Okay. When I was coming up, when I was just, how does Big Lep say it? Knee high to a duck, silly putty in my nose.
Right.
Listen, my dad would pull me aside.
Water still in your ass.
Piss and vinegar, whatever the fuck it is. A Big Lep says, knee high to a duck. I don't know where he gets that shit. Right. But here's the thing. My dad would pull me aside and he would tell me and go, listen, once you become an attorney, you can do pretty much anything you want. You can even fucking kill a guy and you won't lose your license. But he pulled me close. He said, there's only one thing that can cause you to lose your law license: stealing. And I go, why? Why would that matter to them? And he goes, because right now, lawyers control the money that their clients pay. They put up the retainer. So right now, there's no regulation really. It's all self-regulated, and lawyers don't want the government to get involved on how the retainer's dealt with. So if I have a client and I go, hey, for me to even get fucked to talk to you, you got to put $10K in a bank account and I'll hold it for you. And I'll work and I'll just take off that $10K and I'll be straightforward and honest about it. So as a result, the bar takes seriously any kind of embezzlement type things once you're an attorney. Everything else, you can go to AA, you can fucking do your thing. You could be sorry. You might get suspended for a year and come back. But if you're caught stealing from a client, that will fuck you up, because all the attorneys have a nice cushy setup where it's like, I prepare my own invoice for the work that I did. Who can verify it?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I'm just going to take off the retainer, and no one can really check that. Right. And I'm not saying all attorneys rip anyone off. I'm not saying that. But just imagine if your boss said, guess what? What if your boss said, Sean, I'll tell you what, man, I trust you and you're an honorable guy. So I'm going to put 100,000 in the bank for this year. Right. And you're going to keep track of your own time. You're going to decide when you're on the clock, and you're going to also decide what activity you were doing that was part of the case. Mm-hmm. Think about that for a minute. Think about how much control you have over your own money. Think about like where your boss in another job would have saw you on Google fucking around, might be like, that's not working. Yeah, I'm not paying you for that. But like on your own, you're like, well, it was kind of research. You know, I was kind of, I'll call that 15. That was 15 minutes of work, right? Now, I'm not saying all lawyers do that, but I'm saying certainly there's a big fat gray line, and it's real hard to figure out what's going on. And the bars all around the country do not want that shit to shut off. So that's why you can keep your shit together as long as it's not stealing. Does that line up with anything that you guys have heard, Jamie or Frankie?
Well, I mean, I think it's implicit, right? Like,
Yeah.
don't fuck up their good thing, right? There's no transparency, there's no real oversight, and so if you start attracting too much attention, you might just lose the little racket you got going on. And but see me, I'm a public interest attorney, so I don't bill my clients. I just
Right, of course.
I charge foundations who got free money to give away, and I fight for the kids that don't have money.
Right. Well, I'm a private attorney, and I'll tell you what, I'm very honest, but I can see when I'm doing whatever I'm doing, I could see if I had a run of bad luck or I just, was bad week or whatever. I could see where somebody could manipulate the numbers and,
Absolutely.
nobody can look into it. Jamie, what about your story, brother? So how do you go from being incarcerated for what did you say, DUI?
Yeah, it was a DUI homicide. Yeah.
Can you talk to that at all? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, so I grew up on the East Coast and I went to college. I was a wrestling scholarship. And when I finished, I started coaching, and I was coaching in New York City. And I was working on a master's degree at the time. That was part of how they paid me. They gave me a free master's degree. So I did a year there, had pretty good success coaching. Buddy called me up, said, hey, come down to Philly. Let's have a few and hang out. Drove down to Philly. It was about a 2-hour ride. Hung out, boozed a little bit that night with him. And on the way home, we wrecked a car and he got killed. So I was charged with DUI homicide. They didn't have a manslaughter charge in Pennsylvania at the time. So I was charged with DUI homicide. Bailed out, finished my degree, and a year after the wreck, went in for sentencing. And when I was sentenced, I got 3.5 to 7, and ended up serving a little over 4 years. I got a parole hit at 3.5, and so a year hit. They re-reviewed me early at 6 months, and I got out just over 4. So when I was inside, I didn't know what I was going to do when I got home. I had never going to coach again. I mean, I was sort of a public relations nightmare at that point. So I thought, well, what kind of profession can I do? My dad was always bugging me a little bit to go to law school, and I hated school, to be honest. I graduated college with like a 2.6.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, hell, maybe I'll try this. I mean, I'm bored. I got a day room I can study in. So I ended up taking my LSATs inside. I was locked up in 2000. I took my LSATs in October 01 in my cell and scored out pretty well, applied to a bunch of schools, got into 10 out of 11. And of the 10, only one would let me start while I was on active state parole. And when I got home, I still had about 3 years of a tail to walk off. So the only school that would let me do that was this little school called Thomas Jefferson School of Law down in San Diego. And so when I got out, I paroled home to Boston, spent about 6 months there with my folks. And then I did an interstate compact to San Diego and started reporting down on Kurt Street. And I was on active parole pre-AB 109 for almost 3 years. Graduated law school in 07 and then maxed out same week, actually. I graduated law school, I maxed out. So that's how I ended up there, and then did a few more degrees and ended up, wanting to teach. Again, I always wanted to teach, did a few more degrees, PhD, LLM, and then I nailed down a job teaching, and now I'm tenured up at Long Beach.
Frankie, why did you smile when Jamie said, I got a few more degrees? Why was that?
Well, because he started out saying he didn't like school, and the motherfucker won't leave school. He just, he just keeps studying. Like, Mexican parents, if you keep telling them, I want to get a master's, I want to get a PhD, they're like, you really don't want to work, do you?
Yeah, that was pretty much it. That was pretty much it.
So wait a second. This was interesting to me because I wrestled in high school, but I was never good enough to go to the next level. So this was like real wrestling, right? None of this fucking bullshit with the fucking spandex. Maybe. What did you? What weight class did you wrestle?
I was 118 in college.
No.
And when I got home from prison, I was I don't know, 175. So yeah, that was a long time ago. That was a different life. But yeah, I was 118 for 4 years in college.
Man, dude. So wrestling in college, what level? How's that different than like wrestling in high school? Because guys that wrestled in high school, including me, walk around kind of puffed up a little bit, like, yeah, we fucking didn't do that. Well, but wrestling in college, how is that at another level? What's it like?
everyone in the room is either a state champ or a state runner-up. So you come correct or figure it
Go to
out.
sleep.
Yeah.
Right. And so,
So
when,
it's just like, think about your hardest match you wrestled in high school, right?
yeah.
You're wrestling that level every week. It's that match, right? Every weekend when you're going to a quad meet, you got 3 of those kind of matches.
And what about, let me ask you this,
You
man.
ever get oil checked in a match?
Look at Sean.
Here's the
I've never seen Sean light up
Dude,
like that before,
yeah,
bro.
I never, he's
Dude,
been
he's
waiting to
never
ask
smiled,
that
dude,
question.
for fucking
Gotta check it quick. Gotta check it
bro.
quick. Get him to pop over.
He almost levitated over the table just now, dude. He got himself
It
so
was like,
happy.
yeah. Why
Look
was
at
that? Why?
He's like, I really asked that. I really asked.
Why?
I just saw a video where a dude did that to a guy, and I was like, oh, that shit looks like it's fucking painful.
It was like this. Bam,
He's
dog.
just like fucking.
Oh,
the dude's
finger
like,
pirate.
"Ah."
Finger pirate.
Wow.
Yeah. No, there's a weird. Can you
We're gonna have
speak?
to edit that.
Nah, Jamie, can you speak to that? Because I can kind of. There's a crude humor that goes along with being a wrestler. There's some things that you find funny that most normal mouth breathers won't find funny.
Yeah, I mean, I spent, hours on a Stairmaster with, sweatsuits and rubber suits and garbage bags. I mean, you sort of got to have a sense of humor. I mean, you're killing yourself.
What was your signature move, man? Friday night special or what?
I was a thrower, so I was into lat drops and head and arms and stuff where I could catch and get a big 5-pointer.
Right. But now, like with this Gracie Jiu-Jitsu stuff, do you find people like try to be like, yeah, that's cool what you did, but let me show you some fucking Brazilian. And you're like, I've been messing. What's wrestling to like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or MMA? What do you see there?
I think wrestling translates well into MMA. I mean, I know a lot of the guys that do it are good at it. I mean, a few of the guys that I wrestled against and with in college started doing it, once we finished. For an old wrestler like me who never did MMA, it's still a little weird to be on my back. So I'm not into it all that much.
I can tell you this from the gyms that I've been in.
Yeah.
They always bring in a college wrestler or somebody who is like specialized in
Elite
wrestling.
wrestler.
Yeah, to do shooting, like
Right.
shoot in.
Right.
Because like in jiu-jitsu, they don't really shoot in a lot.
Right.
So they bring in some sort of specialist to kind of go over those drills.
Yeah, because if you're a thrower, then you got to also be really good at shooting, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to protect your legs.
Yeah, and think about this, man. Like our Coach Brown, guy was about 4 feet tall, but he could kick your fucking ass in a New York minute.
What is it with short guys, man?
And wrestling,
I'm only 5'3", so you got that.
right?
right.
That's wrestling.
No, I think it's partially it's 2 reasons. One is short guys got to prove themselves more.
Also get quick. I mean, it's quicker for you to get down.
Yeah, they're
center,
closer
right?
fucking center of gravity.
Right.
Not, but also they put you in classes, so you finally get some fair fucking fights.
Amen.
Like you're not in, you're not with the whales down at like 280.
Right.
Unless it's like Iron Man workout, then
Right.
you have to wrestle everywhere. But the point of the matter is though that's interesting because shooting, like, dude, in wrestling, like that's like one of the major topics is not only shooting, but how to protect yourself from the shooting. And then how do you get a guy? My first wrestling match, I was a fucking mess, bro. Because I don't know about his first wrestling match, but when you go ahead.
You ever shit your pants?
I mean, wrestling?
Yeah.
No.
Damn,
But
that's
you know
a
what?
fucking
Studying,
Ever?
yes, studying for the bar, I shit my pants.
You did?
I absolutely shit
Well,
my
there you
pants.
go.
I absolutely did because
Okay.
listen, I thought it was a fart because it came out like gas,
Mhm.
Came out
right?
hot.
Right. It was real hot and it blew.
You couldn't feel the liquid. It was warm.
It came out like that. And the only reason I knew I was in trouble is because it didn't dissipate and it got cold.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then you got up and walked with gravy leg to the back.
Chill.
I walked like a one-legged sailor,
Fucking-
bro. I
was it
like,
leaking out the bottom of the pant leg? Was
dude,
it like
well,
that?
no, I had bunched up socks. It was getting caught up in the socks. It was like a
Oh.
sponge.
Yeah. Didn't
It's
get
no
to the
big
shoe.
deal. It's like a point of pride to me. I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, I studied so hard to shit my pants.
Yes.
All right. So that's great.
And Frankie?
Yeah, Frankie, you ever shit your pants?
Not often, but it's happened.
What, was it one of those deals where you thought it was a ghost and it turned
Every time you think you're safe until you don't feel the air.
I'm at the age now where I won't test that anymore.
Frankie, are you able to speak on your incarceration? Are you
Yeah.
able to speak a little lightly on what transpired?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. I was 15 years old. I grew up in the east side of Oxnard in a neighborhood called La Colonia, and
Yep.
gang involved, and I was young. I mean, 15 and shit. I was, still, up and coming, I guess you could say. And at that time too, in the mid 90s, I had to admit, like a lot of the older homies were just strung out. Heroin, crack, fucking you name it. They weren't very, there wasn't much mentorship, guidance, structure, and so all the little homies were just, we were doing our own thing. And one day, my friend tells me his family's hard on cash. They're about to be evicted. Will I help them rob a liquor store? And even at that time, I felt like if you rob a liquor store, you're risking 3 years in jail for what, $300. And so I told him no, but he accepted that. He walks away, and I began to feel guilty in my 15-year-old codependent mind. I'm thinking like, man, I need to help my friend. If something bad happens, I'm gonna feel guilty. So we go, and at noon on a Saturday afternoon, just like right now, robbed the liquor store in broad daylight. We stole a car, had guns, ski masks, robbed the liquor store, left, dished the cash in the car, and then we ended up getting caught because we took the car again, try to sell it, and we did 8 months in juvenile hall. He was tried as an adult at age 16, sentenced to 7 years in the adult system. I was kept in juvenile court. My judge gave me 15 years and committed me to the California Youth Authority because 5 years for the it was what was it 5 years for the robbery, 10 years gun enhancement. But because I was 15, I maxed out at 25, so it was really a 10-year sentence. I went to Fred C. Nellis. At that time, there was 11,000 young people in the system that was designed to only hold 6,000. So we were experiencing the double capacity thing that prisons have gone through in California, and it was madness. It was just gladiator school, right? And
Yeah.
guards are fucking you up, or they're paying the big kids, young men to fuck each other up, and it was like that, right? So going there, I'm just, felt like the judge told me, if you're as good as the community letters and supports and even probation reports say you are, then you're going to go to CYA and you're going to come back, better, good as new, better than ever. Which I thought was a cruel joke getting there because it was just like nothing there was good. Everything was
Right.
corrupt. Everything was violent, and it was just really about survival. And so I got out. I did 3 years. Got out. Didn't last 3 months. Went back on a year violation. Got out a year later. Only lasted 2 months that time, and went back again. And the third time I got out, I stayed out for 2 years and enrolled in community college, Oxnard College. I was 21 at this point. The frontal lobe started to develop, and I started thinking a little more consequences and long-term strategy. And I had never met anybody that had been to college except maybe like, the corrections officers that had AA degrees in sociology. So I did that. I studied sociology. I hated it. A lot of my professors at Oxnard College encouraged me to do English because I wrote well. So I did that. And at age 23, I violated parole one more time I was, possession of a controlled substance that I may or may not have been selling.
Right.
And did another year and a half, 6 months county and a year at YTS. And when I got out that time, I immediately applied to the UC system because I was poor. I had the fee waivers for 4 UCs. I applied to Irvine, Santa Barbara, LA because they were near my home. And I burnt the fourth free one on Berkeley, and I got into all of them. So at age 25, I left home for the first time in my life, not in handcuffs, to live in the Bay Area. And kind of the rest is history, man. I did very well. I graduated with the BA in English from the #1 English department in the country.
Right.
Spent 2 years at the National Center for Youth Law as the executive director's assistant. Was inspired to do big impact like type work, litigation, policy work. So I got admitted to UCLA School of Law. I applied to 31 law schools because I believed that I was going to have a hard time getting in. And out of the 31, I got admitted to 6. And so 25 denied me. And UCLA was one of the better ones. So I went there, and once I was there, like hard part is getting in. But once I was there, I knew that I couldn't compete with the other students who were like legacy kids with parents that were lawyers. And so my perspective was like, don't compete with them, compete with myself. Be smarter than I was yesterday. Be smarter than I was this morning. Like learn a lot and have fun.
Hold on.
And yeah.
Disculpe, Frankie, disculpe. Can you speak to when you went to law school?
Mhm.
Can you speak to your experience of realizing the levels of intelligence in law school? Like my experience was I thought I was pretty smart, right? Like undergrad and all that other shit. Then when I went to law school, I came and met some people that were like really fucking smart. Did you have that same experience when you went to UCLA where you were like, God damn, that person's so fucking brilliant. It's not even, I'm not even worried about them because they're in a class of their own.
Yeah, sure. And I'll say, I got a lot to say about that, but I'll say I think because UCLA was ranked 15, we didn't have those, top three, Stanford or Yale law students that were just so full of themselves, can't come to earth, and they're just, they're so smart, they're stupid in some ways, kind of like on the spectrum maybe.
Yeah.
There weren't too many of those, and so like being 15, like humble yourself, motherfucker. We're all at UCLA. None of us are Yale material, so like tone it down. And I kind of felt like that was a factor. But then also I'll say like for me, I knew that there's cerebral intelligence and there's emotional intelligence. And for me, like I wasn't the book read motherfucker, but I survived a lot and navigated a lot, and a lot of it was like instinctual. So being in that space, like I remember the first semester, my classmates, all very smart motherfuckers, are breaking down crying. I'm hearing people moping in the library, and I'm just like, what's happening? And they're afraid because the pressure's on. And here I am, I'm thinking, no one's gonna shoot me, kill me, rape me or anyone I love, take my home. Like all of that shit has
Stab
happened. to
nobody.
me.
You got to stab
Right.
nobody, right? Yeah.
The worst
You
thing
can
that's gonna
open your
happen.
door. You can open your door from the inside.
Worst thing that you're threatening me with is a C minus. I'm like, game on. So I didn't have that pressure. I didn't have that fucking. It was a matter of perspective.
Think about that.
That's a major advantage actually in law school. If you don't have that kind of pressure, if you're not stressing out and shitting your pants because of a test because you think you got to be Top Gun or in the first whatever, it's because you're looking at I hope I can get that job at O'Melveny and Myers
Right.
or what the fuck it is.
At pork, pig, and swine LLC. Like
Exactly, right? What about you, Jamie? What about you? Did you? I mean, listen. You can say like, oh, there's first tier, second tier, third tier, fourth tier law schools, but at every law school, there's some smart motherfuckers, right? And there's, Jamie, can you speak to your experience as hitting that and being like, fuck, all right, this is interesting?
Well, for me, I mean, I had been out of school for a minute, so it was, as Frankie had, and so it was a little weird, sort of readjusting, right? And it was super weird being in criminal law and have people talk about those people and convicts and all sort of stuff, right? But I mean, in terms of like smartness and all that, I mean, look, I went to law school sort of ignorant. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know what law review was. I didn't know what like journals were and how that worked. I didn't know any of that. So I sort of just learned it while I was there. And yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think not knowing maybe benefited me a little bit because it does take away a lot of that stress and a lot of that other stuff. Basically, they stuck books in front of me and said, this is what we want you to learn. And so I just grind, and I just would try to learn it. And that was what I did. I kind of, and ended up okay. But I mean, yeah, I think going into it a little bit naive, maybe it was a good thing.
Right.
But I'll be honest, there was no one at that school that I thought, and frankly, I don't know. I mean, Frankie's right. I think he was probably one of the top guys at UCLA. And I think where I was at, I felt like I could compete with everybody, right? But it wasn't a pressure to compete. It was just, I just felt like I could. And that was, part of it has having come out of a situation that I think taught me resilience. And I think same thing with Frankie.
And I'll say for me, I went into law school wanting to compete with the best of them, and I had a chip on my shoulder, and I felt like I can't. So when I got admitted, one of the professors that was on the admissions committee let me know that it was a big controversy. Half of the panel hated me, said that I wasn't UCLA material. No fucking way. They were all about the numbers and the prestige. And the other half were a lot more public interest minded, social justice, and really wanted me to, and they prevailed. But learning that, I didn't feel bad in the sense that I'm like, oh, fuck, those people didn't want me. It was kind of like, damn, like now I have to prove the people that went to bat for me right. Because if I don't, then I'm letting them down, which is kind of like the story of like my life. And so I tried hard. In the first year, I tried hard and I got C's and B's and I didn't do well. And I developed like migraine headaches. And over a few months, I learned it was my glasses. But in that time, it wasn't even an option to study. I couldn't read more than a couple hours because I would have these debilitating migraines that would knock me out for days. And so I had to basically accept that I can't give 100%. I can't compete. And I had to like relegate myself to like this all that I can manage as opposed to the best that I can do kind of a standard. And doing that, kind of humbling myself and just accepting like that's just how it has to be. I got A's and B's after. And so in a way, it was the perspective, the lived experience I'm coming in with, trying to compete and read every case, and I always only getting to like 80% of my homework. I couldn't read it all. That broke me. And then I'm just like, well, fuck it. Well, like life is going to figure itself out. And so doing less, I did better because I stopped trying to like rev my engine to maximum. It was more of like coast at 60. And it was like the turtle in the hair kind of a analogy, right? It's like they're fucking sprinting and killing themselves, and I'm just jogging at a moderate pace. And in the end, I graduated law school. People didn't think I would. I passed the bar on the first time. People didn't think I would. I got 2 prestigious fellowships. George Soros has a fellowship that paid for my 2 years after law school, and his older, lesser billionaire brother, Paul Soros, paid for half of my living expenses and tuition through the New American Fellowship, things that UCLA law students hadn't received more than twice in its history, right? And to this day, UCLA Law Magazine, on their 75th anniversary, named me one of their 70th top alumni ever, right? And so I'm just like, again, the guy who didn't finish high school. I went to 1 year of high school. My GPA in high school was 0.8, right? I didn't go to, I graduated from DJJ. I went to community college. I made it to Berkeley, worked, got to law school, and it was just like, I know that I'm smarter than these people, maybe not at vocabulary level or testing, like whatever the metrics are, but I knew that I can out thrive any one of them, because it's more, the MMA analogy versus wrestling, right? They might be good at wrestling, but all around, I can beat you, because the same thing that made me a good gang member made me a good attorney.
Which
And
is what? Which is
reading, like, put it this way: when I was growing up, you had to be resourceful. So it's not just about fighting; it's about talking into and out of situations, not being on the wrong side of the power brokers who could have the capability of killing you, and right, and not worrying about the battles that aren't really important, right? So it's politics, it's the economy, it's power brokering, it's this emotional kind of back and forth. You can say a lot without saying anything, right? And I think going into this legal space, so much of it has been that. It's like recognizing where the power lies, the power dynamics and the brokering, with spoken and physical communication being what it is, right? And understanding that you might be a much bigger, larger, more powerful person, but if I can leverage your inertia as you come at me and pivot, and toss you with your own energy, like, let's do that, because you have to be able to box and grapple, and do all these things, where some of these students that I went to school with, they're good brief writers, right? I never did that, what Jamie was talking about. Like, I never tried for law review. I didn't do moot court. I didn't do mock trial. I didn't give a fuck about any of that. All I wanted to do was learn constitutional law, right? Because that is the universe of everything we're talking about. And if I understand the framework and the game that we're playing, I can compete at any level. Never mind one task, one tool. Like, if I don't have a hammer, I can still hammer a nail with the wrench, right? Like, fine.
And on top of that too, what Frankie said, I think you also learn how to trust who to trust, right? I mean, inside, right, it's a survival skill. I'm not gonna be on the yard with you if I don't know what you did, and I know guys are looking for you. So,
right. And you can't be scary either. You have to be able to take risks.
Right. You gotta be, yeah, 100%. And all that, what Frankie said, all that about the admissions committee and all that, saying, oh, Frankie, it was a big thing, and we didn't know if we were going to accept you. When he and I started this organization for system involved lawyers, who was the school that reached out and said, yeah, sure, you can host your first convening, and there's 200, formerly incarcerated people in a room talking about how we're going to enter the legal profession? UCLA School of Law. So, I mean, I think that's sort of what we push this for, is that, like, folks like us bring a whole bunch to law schools. And I think law schools are short-sighted if they don't give folks like us a break.
This is great, bro. Like, what I wouldn't give to see an ex-convicted, I don't even want to say it, like, defend somebody that's on a murder trial. Like,
no, well, wait,
could that happen? Can that actually happen?
Dude, what about this? What about the defendant, the defense attorney, or whatever? It's civil law. Let's just put it into whatever. That attorney goes into a court 10 years after they've been an attorney, and they appear in front of a judge that sentenced them.
Oh, that's crazy.
Imagine that. And you probably would get that judge picked off the case because of whatever. But just to have the judge look up and see,
a guy that he sent away.
Right. Little Frankie Guzman. Now he's got the glasses. Yes, Your Honor.
Love that, you guys.
Do you remember me, motherfucker?
Yeah.
Guess what? I'm going to fucking file a motion and have your ass thrown off this case, because I don't think you can be unbiased.
Yeah, I like that. I don't think you can be unbiased.
I don't think you got it.
Your Honor.
Hold on a second, guys. We got like a Gen Z kid in here who's got an undergrad from UC Santa Cruz. He's a banana slug. You've heard what these guys have said about school.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you have difficulties like that?
Yeah. What are you facing right now, young man?
Did I have difficulties with school?
No, I mean, you're talking to two guys
Right.
that were on the inside that everyone put their money down that they weren't gonna fucking make it. They
Yeah.
came out fucking like two dogs
Like
that
gangbusters.
wouldn't let fucking go with the bone and fucking grizzled their way up into a preeminent position through school. How is it going for you?
Grizzled.
Hey man, it just makes you put everything into perspective. You know, obviously, like as a person that didn't come from that background or didn't deal with a lot of stuff, you know, you're just like, you know, you're so focused on like, oh, I need to get like top like A's, B's, or whatever, and then you kind of, you know, you hear these stories and you're
Yeah.
like, oh shit, like there's like you kind of realize that what you're thinking and what you're scared about is so stupid, and it's just you need
That's like Brian Smith a little bit, right?
Yeah,
Brian
they
Stevens,
both
right?
and both guys just nodded. They're like, "That's right. It's
Yeah.
stupid."
you just need to rethink like how you want to like move forward, and you know there's people that have it worse than you, so you just got to put that into consideration and just give it your all. And you know I think that's a really
Do
like
you, when you listen to guys like this, does a part of you feel like, man, maybe I should have gone to jail?
no,
Nope.
but
You never
no,
got that.
no, but when I listen to these stories like these, it's just like it kind of um just helps me out. And like, you know, like this experience, like these are experiences that I'm not gonna go through, but listening to that, it's like I feel like I'm not that I feel like I'm going through it, but I feel like I learned from it. And it just the person that I was maybe 6 months ago is not the same person that I am now. Listening
Yeah.
to these people
Yeah.
talk about their stories,
Right.
it's a very unique thing, and I, you know, it's just great to listen to it.
When I went to
If you do want to go in, if you do want to go inside, they got room for you, and they're happy.
Oh,
Yeah,
they would
playing
love
room.
him.
Yeah.
You know
Oh,
what?
are you kidding me? They would use him like a loofah. They
I
think
I was working for Health Right 360, Walden House, right up in San Francisco for a while, and I went and took. I had to go get a couple certificates from San Francisco City College.
So you know Wayne, right?
Wayne Garcia has been my mentor for 24 years. He's the guy that saved my life, bro. Wayne Garcia.
Yeah, I know.
Talk about him all the time, bro. The guy saved my life over and over. You know him?
Yeah, I met him. Yeah, I know him.
That's
My brother just came home after 33 years, and he almost went to Health Right. He got redirected to Geo, and I thought it was all bad, but it turned out Geo was all right. He lived in the Tenderloin for 2 years, but he's doing well. He's been home for 2 months or 2 years rather. Got a job at Caltrans. Is now in the union and was recommended for early discharge after 2 years on parole. So I'm hopeful that that works out for him. But
that's great, man. Yeah, Wayne ended up going over to. He moved from Health Right. He's no longer there. He was there 25 years, and now he's at I can't think of the name of it, man.
when I saw Wayne in the Bay, right? Because I mean, I grew up Sureño, and so I'm like all Cholo culture, and people up here don't look like that. Raza doesn't. And so when I saw this guy with the big mustache, I'm like, where's my guy? So I started a conversation with him, and he was always a good dude, very supportive. Sent letters for my brother's support for his release, and so I'm just like, I like Wayne. But
yeah, bro, at the very, I will end it with this. I'll say that at the worst places in my life, the 3 times that I was at the worst place in my life, the phone call all 3 times was to Wayne Garcia. And when I called him, he was like, "Where you at? I got you." Like, I love that man, bro. I love that man. What I wanted to say was I had to go up and take some certs up at San Francisco City College because they asked me to work for Health Right as a coordinator. And I remember I went in and I took these little that you had to take like some tests just so that they can kind of find out where you're at before you even take any classes.
yeah.
And so I get up there and I take these tests, and I don't have a high school diploma or anything. And I remember when they came back, you get the results of where you're at. And so I
Yeah.
guess like I had like a 7th grade or something equivalent to 7th grade for math, and that my reading was decent or whatever. But then when it got to the writing they told me it was way up here. They're like, "You're university, you know that you should really be studying writing." I was at a university level for my writing. I was like, I called up everybody I knew. I was like, dude, I'm sitting in college right now, and they're telling me, see, I could have been somebody, man. I always knew. And in my head, I'm going, I just knew that I could have been somebody. I was just young. I couldn't sit still. But when I hear you guys' story, it's like, I love it, man, because Guys like us count ourselves out, man, before we ever get a chance to start. And I've watched gentlemen like you and other gentlemen do fantastic things, man. It's like, I think we snuff ourselves out, along with society not giving us opportunities in different places we may live if we
Sure.
come from low economics. But I also know that a part of what we've been taught and what we believe and the narrative is that we can't, and like somebody else on the show said, you don't get um attorneys and doctors and professional people coming into your, if you don't see that ever growing up, you never know that you can be that.
Right.
If the only guy that I seen my color was coming to cut the lawn or plumb the fucking backed up, I've never seen myself in those positions. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? And like, that's why I think this is really important for this show, not only for gentlemen and men and women that are incarcerated,
Right.
but for men and women that are coming from places we come from that don't know it's possible. You guys make it possible. I think it's great, brother.
And,
It's really important.
let me ask these guys this, and you don't have to give any names, but just to be fucking real, because I listened to this and everything, and what you said, Steve, I think is really powerful, which is, yeah, we know society has slotted people into certain fucked up things. But we've also seen plenty of examples where somebody had an opportunity, but they themselves either couldn't handle the accountability or responsibility of success or whatever. Jamie or Frankie, have you guys ever dealt with a guy that was, or a gal that was like this close? They had all the tools, they just couldn't get out of their way. And if you did, like, what was that story?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the moral character, I have a lot of clients, and some, are sort of get in their own way a little bit. And I'll say it this way. You talked a little bit about the system and the fact that the bar requires you to do this, and I have a lot of clients that sort of balk at that, right? They go like, why do I have to do this? Why do I have to say this? Why do I have to behave this way, contrite and all this stuff? And here's what I tell them: you want to change the system, great, but let's get you your bar card before that. Once we get you in the club, right, and once you have that level of influence, let's talk about changing the system. Because I look at my job as a piece, right? My job is to get you licensed. After that, right, let's work to change the system. Now let's do that. On the front end, sort of putting up that fight is not going to serve you well trying to get in, right? That's just the way it is. I don't like the rules. There's certain things I disagree with, right? What the bar does, but I understand those are the rules, and so my job is to help folks navigate those rules. I hope they change eventually, and if I can sort of help enough people who've had these experiences get in, my hope is that critical mass will get those changes going. So that's sort of where I come at it from. And so, yeah, I've had clients that just simply, yeah, I took a plea. Why'd you take a plea? Well, I was fucking sitting in jail for X amount of time, and it was a time served deal, so I took it. Did you do it? No, but I wanted to get the fuck out. Oh, I get that, right? But you can't go say that, right? This isn't a place we're going to renegotiate your plea, and that's not going to happen here. That's not the forum for this. So I think those are the kinds of clients that I have that sort of, can be a little more difficult for them, right? But I get where they're coming from, and so we kind of speak the same language.
Right. What about you, Frankie? Have you ever had a situation that was just a heartbreaker where you're like, man, you were this close? If you could just wrapped your head around it a little bit, or whatever.
I'll say yes, and it's probably the overwhelming experience, right? And what I mean by that is, I grew up in a fairly big gang. I had a lot of homies. How many of them made it to college? Very few. How many of them were smart? A lot of them, right? And so as you see us all like salmon swimming upstream, like how many of us are going to lose our skin and die before we get to the place where we're destined? Many people, because of emotions, are just going to bow. Like, for example, there were many times when I'm like, I just wish I had a kid. I have nothing. I have no real emotional connection to anybody in this life, and all I really want is someone that's going to love me unconditionally, because I don't have that, right? And I think that many people fall victim to that, end up having kids too young before they've had a foundation, and in some ways that is their undoing, right? There are other people who get very close and get a DUI when they're in college on a scholarship, right? Me, my uncle used to always tell me, like, Frankie, you're so too smart for your own good because you think you know everything, and that kind of thinking is going to get you caught up. And that's exactly what happened. And I think that's what happens with many people, but some people don't get a second chance, right? Many people get washed up, get done dirty when other people, and I'm putting race aside, just the system is very punitive and doesn't set people up for success, which is why having had the opportunity to get out in my mid-20s and have opportunity to go to school and struggle and navigate through all that and be protected by a community from myself, sometimes from my own best thinking, I made it to where I am, and which is why I've focused on youth justice. You know, I don't respect the rules, so like Jamie says, I became a lawyer to change the rules. If I don't like the rules and don't respect them, why play by them? I'd just rather change them. And so that's really been my whole approach is change laws to make sure that the laws don't disproportionately disadvantage young people who don't have a chance in the first place, but instead give them the opportunities to make good from those mistakes, right? So that we can make lemonade out of lemons, right? And so much of what I've learned in my life is, yeah, kids will do the damnedest things sometimes because of emotional process, and you're prioritizing the wrong things and aren't playing the right game that we've been talking about this whole time. But it's not their fault because life doesn't come with a blueprint, and we don't all have people that are going to protect us all the time from ourselves. And there is a machine out there that is more than willing to chew you up and shit you out. And I'm trying to make it so that that machine touches far fewer kids, and instead that there are other more developmentally appropriate and I would say culturally rooted opportunities for young people to develop a positive self-identity, to develop self-efficacy, and find a place in life that feeds into like the positive narrative that is you have value, you have a purpose, as opposed to like what I grew up thinking, which is we ain't shit, which is why no one invests in us. And that negative self-talk and negative self-identity made me hate people that look like me, because I wasn't raised to be suicidal. I was raised to be a little more, I mean, homicidal maybe is the wrong word, but outwardly aggressive. And usually it was people that reminded me of the piece of shit that I thought I was, right? So I see a dude with face tats, I'm like, fuck that guy. I want to hurt him. And the face tats themselves are, I think, a symbol of the pain and the self-scarring and self-hating, and you're cutting yourself off from a lot of opportunities. I say the gang stuff, right?
Dude, he's making such an interesting point that kind of goes along a little bit with what
I said about Nipsey
and Emilio Rivera's, what he was saying.
Yeah.
Which was when he saw that actor on that stage, right, that was playing a part and he was the real thing, he got in the front row, and his attitude at the time kind of was like, man, fuck that fake. I'm the real thing. I'm gonna, right? It's that same, it looks like whatever. But what he was reacting to a little bit was the fact that this guy was up on a stage doing something that soon Emilio realized, I want to do that too, man. Like I want to be up there.
Right.
That's an interesting and a strange point, that there's a point of hate and recognition or identification.
Sure. Well, I think it's like a jealousy thing too.
It's weird. Wait, man, this is such a crazy.
I hate you, but I want what you got.
I'll say is, for me, it was an issue of self-hate, right? You're conditioned to not like yourself because of all the things that you think you are not the good person. You're not the valuable person in society. So the reflection in the mirror is what I like. It isn't. I don't even see that person's humanity.
Right.
All I see is the shit, the image that I don't like about myself.
But that's the point of identification. So what he's saying is like, if I'm recognizing something, I not consciously understand this yet, right? I'm just reacting. But he's saying I'm recognizing a reflection, and then I'm directing my self-hatred outward towards that reflection, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Sean, you weren't raised in the barrio.
Nope.
But can you identify with how Frankie felt? That
self-hatred?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That nobody invested in me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to invest in myself. How did that manifest in your life, being in the kind of like a mediocre suburbs? And where were you?
I grew up in like Fair Oaks.
Right. Which is a suburb of, okay. It's right. So moderately, like, you know.
Right below Folsom.
Okay. And so, what is your approach? I mean, we're listening to a situation where these two gentlemen went into the system, and then they're coming out trying to think like there's got to be a better way. And I got to say, like, to a certain extent, there's already some dialogue around that. But there's not a lot I don't feel like there's not a lot of dialogue around a situation which is yours, which is like a broken home, Sacramento suburb. You weren't really poor, but at the same time, you were kind of neglected.
Yeah.
and you were kind of just left to figure out whatever the fuck you were going to
Right.
do.
No leadership, no guidance, no role model, that sort of thing. Yeah.
So
And-
what do you take away from what they're saying, or how do you relate it to you?
Well, you know what's funny is that you were saying, somebody said, I can't remember who it was, do you wish you had gone to prison?
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that, like how eye-opening it would be to be locked in a place that you knew you wanted to get out of, and you knew you wanted to be successful, and you had a lot of time to think about what you would do different,
Right.
because you had no other choice
Right.
but to stare at the wall and think about what I could do, what I can do, what I can be.
Right.
What an opportunity. I'm not saying it's great to be, locked up in prison or be in jail or have to, pay for a crime that you committed or whatever. But
or were accused of
it is a
committing.
lot more clear to you to be in that situation than it is to just kind of simmer and be left alone and kind of adrift at sea, right?
Steve, think about
Does that make
that.
sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. Steve, and I think part of people's attraction to people who've been incarcerated, it's not all of it, but some of it seems directed at like a kind of like, man, you were put in such a bad situation that some things got real clear. And
absolutely
right. And you sometimes interact with guys who've had like kind of cushy life growing up, and they're floundering. They're fucking, they've got money to burn and they can't get out of bed and they don't know what does it all mean? I don't know. And they probably look at your situation and they're like, man, if I would have just fucking been put in the fucking pokey, I probably at least would have known I fucked up. And
I would say that if you could, first off, for one, I learned a lot in prison, and I utilize a lot of what I learned in prison in my daily life. So the prison wasn't a complete wrap. You learn a lot of different things. And if you might be a certain type of person that might be, I don't know, you can't get up in the morning, you're lazy, you're kind of messy, and you're come from where I come and go in prison, all that's going to get taken care of. You're going to figure out how to clean. You're going to figure out how to get up in the morning. You're going to make your bed. You're going to exercise. You're going to learn to fight. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You're going to come. So there are pieces of it, as sick as it's set up, the whole thing. There are pieces of stuff I took from prison that I incorporated in my life that have helped me.
Right.
Absolutely helped me.
Right.
So I'll say that, but on the same token, I mean, like, kind of going back to what I was saying was, I personally didn't know you could be an attorney if you had any kind of death, or if you even used like a gun. Like, I know that they took my right away to have a gun. I know people that can't have a gun because they sold a piece of dope. So, I also know that there's jobs that I was told I could never have because I was a convicted felon. I could never. You have to be bonded. You can never be bonded. You can never. So when right now, as we're getting on this show, this is the first time that I've ever heard that if somebody died and you're any kind of way responsible for it, or if you did any kind of an armed robbery, I thought you could never be an attorney or a judge or run for politics. And I'm just starting to find out some of this right now from you guys.
The crazy part is that America is a prison crime country. When you think about how America was founded, one of the first things that this fucking country did was it said, well, if you owe money, that can't put you in prison anymore. Think about the type of person that was like, when we start a country, one of the first fucking bedrock rules is going to be, if you owe someone money, that can't land you in prison anymore. The only type of person that would think of that is the type of people that would fucking take out crazy loans they couldn't pay back and wind up in jail in England. So that's the mentality to a certain extent of the founding fathers when they first start thinking. And they also start thinking like, no more cruel and unusual punishment. No more any of that shit. Also, you can't testify against yourself. Because in England, the king used to fucking twist your nipples until you finally said, fine, I did it. Right. We're done with that. Now they've been eroding some of those things as corporations got bigger and all this other bullshit.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
they've been watering it down.
Right.
But what people I don't think fully understand, these so-called, conservatives or these so-called constitutionalist assholes, What they don't really understand is that America really is a country founded for criminals by criminals.
Damn,
Well,
dude.
and it's also self-perpetuating. And let me, if you indulge me for like 2 seconds,
Yeah.
just Frankie's heard the story. I mean, in 2008, I became a barred attorney in December, so I was licensed, and I started working with a private attorney in San Diego. We were doing, homicide cases. I was sitting second chair. He was sort of teaching me, right? I was learning how to do things. And a year later, I got called for jury duty. And I showed up and I walked in and I did my little thing. I sat in the jury lounge. I watched Rob Lowe on TV tell me how wonderful jury duty was. And then they said, you got to fill out your questionnaire. And if you check number 7, you stand up and you can leave. And that was if you have been convicted of a felony. So I checked number 7 and I went to see the clerk and she goes, yeah, you're never going to get called again because you got a felony conviction. And I said, hold up. So you're telling me I can try a case in the same courthouse up the hallway with my co-attorney, a homicide case, death penalty case, but I can't sit on a jury in maybe even a minor like fence dispute in a civil matter. She goes, if you don't like it, write your congressman. So I'm like, well, this is crazy. Like, this can't be true. So I looked it up. And in 29 states, you can become an attorney, but you can never serve as a juror again. So that became my focus of all the work that I did for years. And so what I tried to do was do research to try to get this right back for folks who had felony convictions. And thanks to Senator Skinner up in the Bay and other people, I mean, last year we got it SB 310, which means that anyone that has a felony conviction can now serve as a juror, unless you're on active state supervision or you got a 290 registrable. Everyone else can serve. And that's a huge change, right? Because like it's one thing, you rumble a case and you look out there and all the jurors don't look anything like you, right? Right? That's a problem, right? And that's a self-perpetuating thing, right? And so even though that doesn't sound like a huge change, right? It is a huge change because now folks like us will be sitting in judgment of, and we should be allowed to do that. We should be able to synthesize the evidence and from our perspective. And I think that's a huge change in California.
So along with all of that, right? Now you got to think also, how did this country come up, right? So also the reason why the fucking Americans broke off from the British because they didn't want to pay their taxes, which is about as criminal as you can get. And all those charges, by the way, were legitimate charges. It wasn't bullshit. On top of that, they were stealing land to make the country. On top of that, they were stealing labor to make the country. And so when you look back, because the revolutionaries
and let's not killing people to take the land, to have the slaves work the land.
Oh, I know that.
So murder, you name it.
Oh, that's just good old fashioned fucking pirating and pillaging. That's all that is. Right. That's all part of the history. Right. And then that criminal organization becomes the official organization known as the government.
Right.
And the certain rights that were put in place or whatever, part of that did reflect that in order to have the kind of freedom that we wanted, that we claimed we wanted in this country, that was at least put on the paper, that kind of freedom is going to require that the state needs to be fucking pushed back a little bit. Like the state's got to come with more than like, so this is why it's important. Reasonable down in the criminal level is a really high fucking standard. That's why guys, if you can afford it, guys like OJ can get off because you have a cop lying in court on a murder charge. That's almost enough. Be like, it looks like he did it, but we got a uniformed police officer lying in court. That's enough for like, nah, he's out. So the prosecution system develops, like you said, Steve, a county system that pressures guys that can't afford like the big attorneys to take deals. No, we no longer have to go in and panel jurors and get there. We can try to do all this shit on an informal deal basis, right? I think it's so important to have guys and gals that have been punished by that system to also be enforcing and informing those same laws. I think that they can bring to it an understanding or a perspective that's not going to be get by guys like Bush Jr., who got busted for coke and a DUI and still became president. If you don't think there's a separate set of rules for certain individuals, then you got another thing coming.
You're motherfucking crazy. And dude, I tell you right now, man, these forgot what I was gonna say. Something I fucking wanted to say. But go on.
No, what was it you were gonna say?
Oh, I don't. Now I forgot. I was completely gonna say.
We were
something else.
right in the grist of like guys that and gals that have experienced the deal on another level, coming in and informing and enforcing. Nothing. All right.
No.
Anyway, the point of the matter is, guys. So I mean, so my biggest thing for me in the law, maybe you guys can speak to this, is that the Constitution has set and the amendments have set certain standards that we have yet to meet. That's the way I feel. There are certain things that are said in those documents that in practice we haven't achieved at all. And there has been a separate informal system that's been really set up through the court actions and Supreme Court decisions that is making it real difficult to get back to what this country is supposed to be about, at least in its intention. Frankie, you look like you're either going to shit your pants or you got something to say. What do you?
No, well, I'm just like rules are rules, but
What are your
people
thoughts on that?
people are flawed. So right, so we always have this, our laws are righteous and just. Like, sure, okay, like concepts can be pure, but actions rarely are, right? And so when you have these rules that are pretty clear, you will have self-interested. I mean, let's just say what it is. We have powerful white men who have the discretion to do or not do, right? Just because a law is on the books doesn't mean that you must enforce. We grant the administrators of justice a fair amount of discretion to prioritize certain policies. So I'll take, for example, when I moved to Oakland from Southern California, it was amazing to me to see so many people of color on the street rolling blunts, smoking weed at a time when it was illegal, and the police standing 15 feet from them or rolling by and didn't care. That's because it might be illegal, but they don't have to prioritize enforcing that particular law. They can choose to focus on other things. And so when this plays out, like for example, I was once at a retreat in was like out here, what is it, Malibu or out there by what is it, Will Rogers State Park, and so we ran a home and we're all advocates and we're retreating about youth justice, and there's a woman who comes in to clean and she's looking at our notes on the walls and she says, "What do you guys do?" And I explained to her, we're reformers for youth justice, and she said, "Why would you do that? Like these kids committed crimes." And I said to her, imagine a situation, a world where whatever community you come from, let's say all the police are black, the mayor is black, the governor is black, the people in power are black, and they've decided that they're going to police your community and in particular focus on cocaine use, sexual abuse, domestic violence, child molestation, and they're going to look pretty hard. I'm like, how long do you think? She said, my husband would be in jail. She volunteered that, right? So I'm just like, right. So like after generations of that, how well do you think your children and grandchildren will fare? And she thought about it. She says, I've never thought about that because so many of us would then be incarcerated if we were policed that way. And I said, exactly. So coming back to what you raise is, yes, we have laws and they might be fully justifiable because they make sense, but the way in which we prioritize and we resource, like the enforcement of those laws is a whole different story. And so like we can acknowledge that all people are wrong for these things, but how we treat them, some get counseling, some get jail, some get, therapeutic supports, some get probation with coercive practices and punishment at every turn. And people in jail will have fucked up or have challenges and it's intergenerational that you will set a family 3 to 7 years generations back. And so all I'm saying is we created laws to protect the interests of powerful white people and violence. Like, so some, I think, was it Steve that talked about losing gun rights? Yeah, we will never have a conversation about taking white men's guns rights, but disarming black and native and brown people at every opportunity. You fucking steal a lotto ticket, you're losing your gun rights, right? You're losing all kinds of rights that you will never even entertain a conversation about doing that to white folk in a systematic way, right? And so it is discretion at the core. The ability to do and not do based on your own priorities is really where things fall apart.
And listen, I'm a huge proponent of equality and stuff like that, and I do acknowledge that this country has suffered from institutional racism stuff. But I'm also conscious of the fact that there's a kind of a weird tension. And maybe, Jamie, you can kind of talk a little bit about this with prison reform and other things that you've experienced, where it's like, on the one hand, you can't really say, okay, well, there isn't racism in the country. And then on the second side, that dialogue seems to leave a good chunk of white people out because technically they're white, but like they're not necessarily benefiting in the way or somehow. And so I'm always like, how do we bridge that gap? Like, how do we change the discussion so that a huge group of people who are actually mistreated by the system as well, maybe not the same way, how do we bring them into the discussion? Jamie, do you have any thoughts on that? And
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a socioeconomic component to this as well, right? I mean, I think there's a racial component, but I also think poor white folks, are suffer at the hands of the criminal justice system, also. And I think that I think there's also a measure of a little bit of structural racism in reform efforts, right? I mean, I think that that needs to go. That needs to go away. I think in the reform efforts, because I think, look, if you held a tray and you walked through chow line, right, with your head on a swivel, then, I mean, we're all in this together, right? We all speak sort of the same language when it comes to formerly incarcerated people. And I think, I would love to see that that gap bridged. But, I do think it has to do with poverty. Look, I didn't come up wealthy. I grew up in, neighborhoods that were, at least when I was a real young kid, considered sort of a white ghetto, right? And I ended up in prison. Would I have ended up in prison if I wasn't that person? I didn't grow up in that neighborhood. I had money. I don't know. I don't think so. So who knows? But I do think that it comes down to anything that sort of divides us, I think, is what they're looking for, right? I think that having this population be fragmented, right, that helps them, right, keep power. And I hate that happens in reform movements. I like to see it all coalesce and work in the same direction. Because here's what happens, right? We reform something and we target sort of low-hanging fruit, for lack of a better sort of expression, right? So we say, okay, the low-level drug offenders, and Frankie's gonna hate me for saying this, right? But low-level drug offenders, juveniles, right? That's easy. That reform is I think that's a sympathetic, right? But what about the guys who did a robbery, right? Have 2 homicides or whatever, that are still, right? When we bifurcate efforts of reform, I think we sort of reinforce the badness of the people that aren't included in the reform effort.
Right, like there's a deserving
right.
criminal, and there's an undeserving criminal.
Right. So what I would like to see is, look, let's have real reform across the board, right? And when we pick and choose groups, yeah, it's great for that group, but necessarily there's another group that we're saying something about by not including them, right? And I think that's a little bit of a danger of this. So
why do you think I'm going to have any objection to that
Well,
comment?
no, because I think juvenile reform is, people are sympathetic to, at least I am. I don't know, maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but like, I feel like helping kids is something that you ought to want to do, right? Help kids.
Everybody feels bad for the street urchin that, didn't have a fucking pot to piss in, but they didn't do anything as adults after that. Yeah, so right. I agree with you. It's easier to help kids than it is to help a fucking 6'2", 180-pound, fucking tattooed, armed robber who enjoys robbing.
Yeah.
Right? You might not get an old lady to give $10 to that cause, but if you said, look at poor little Johnny, he's only 12 and he still has his whole life is in front of him, it's easier to get an old lady to put a money in that. Frankie?
Let me clarify. I don't think reform efforts are easier, right? I certainly don't think that, right? But what I do think is how the public views them. I think, garnering sort of popular support for things, might be a little simpler when we're talking about certain folks who commit crimes versus others, right?
You know what I think is real fucked up? I think what's real fucked up is that like James Dean and all these other fucking, like, those are all images of like little hoodlums and crooks and blah, blah,
bad boy.
Right, the bad boy. And somehow that's okay. But the real life bad boys, they don't get shit. That's like, no, sorry.
Well, I also want to just remind folks, like, until very recently, California had a huge problem with prosecuting children as young as 14 as adults. So while we can have a conversation about young people are more deserving of leniency, there's a whole lot of kids that were just carved out of being children at all, right?
That's a great point. That's a great point, Frank.
When you talk about from 2000 to until 2016, when we abolished direct file, which was a law that so first of all, I'll just say, my focus coming out of law school was ending the harshest punishments against young people on the books, life without parole, prosecutorial direct file, transfer to the adult system, because I knew that there was a huge hole where they were like certain childhood doesn't apply to some kids, and mainly in California, 90% of all those kids were Black and Latino young people, right? And that was a challenge, that was a problem. And so for me, I was having to engage in conversations about murder, kids who committed multiple murders, and I did see the deserving and non-deserving play that conversation, which is why I don't give any attention to it. Like I don't believe that should be something that we do. And I think put I would say people that are like politically like cowards don't want to fight that fight because their heart really isn't in it and they're willing to cut some people off. Like I don't subscribe to that way of thinking or advocating. I think that politically it's a reality, it's something that we have to contend with, but not something that we have to give up, right? And so for me, I don't give a fuck what the kid did. I'm an expert witness in trials almost every time where the kid kills somebody. And my position is most kids, if not all kids, can rehabilitate. Matter of fact, most kids, if not all kids, will age out of crime if we do nothing. Brain science has shown that even kids who commit the most serious crimes or kids who are persistent at committing crimes will age out at 94%. 94% of young people who committed either a big serious crime or many little ones will age out by the time they're 24 or 25 rather, which to me means sure, then we have a restorative timeout where like we don't sometimes we have to remove a kid from his community, and as bad as that sounds, like yeah, that kid probably is going to kill somebody again, and I'm not going to be a person who's going to lie about that. But the idea is that we can't put them in a death chamber, a dungeon, and somehow think that that's going to help the person, knowing that that person's going to look at people say, well, we're going to send him away to make sure he never hurts anybody. Oh, really? Level 4 prison yard, right? And then you have these thousands of kids who are just now like raising themselves with the guards don't talk to you. They're all under the shade, fucking eating flower seeds, or they're in the gun tower, fucking waiting for you to do something so they can kill you. And everybody else is just being raised by people who've never been raised. So they are there for a long time, but there's a lot of people going into the revolving door who will be affected. So the more that we invest in throwing these kids away and invest in hopelessness for this whole generation, they might not be out anytime soon, but the people who have to go in for short time will come out fucked up and fuck up our communities, and we have to pay. The people in Calabasas or fucking anywhere else, Pacific Palisades, are making policies that don't affect them because they're watching the news. They're afraid. They are victims in their own mind, but the true victims, the victims in the defendant box, they have no compassion for, who are foster kids, who are homeless, who have all kinds of stuff. And yeah, they kill somebody, but there is a better way of dealing with them that makes them better and not worse. And that's why, I'm all about going to bat for the kids who kill somebody, because I feel like they will change, and we can invest in systems that'll make them worse or make them better. And I'm more of a solutions kind of oriented person, so I'm like, yeah, let's go. And so for me, youth is up to 25.
I think that
young men.
I think that goes a little bit to what Jamie was saying to an extent, which is
I agree with them, which is why I'm like, why would you think that?
I don't know. I was just fucking. I'm tired, man. I got
murderers are my favorite people, man. Like shit. Both of my brothers committed murder. Like, how dare I go? For a long time, I didn't even touch low-level misdemeanor diversion. Like, who gives a fuck? I'm interested in the guillotine.
But
not
see,
the
those
death
are
by
the
a
kids.
thousand
Those are the
cuts.
kids you walk. Those are the kids though. When you walk around with the clipboard, right? The story is, oh yeah, kids are getting caught with dime bags and getting sent into DJ. Oh, let's reform for them, right? But I agree with you, right? The folks who commit murder, those are the ones that those are harder sells, right? So reformers are like, let's try this first, right? Let's get to those kids later. And exactly, Frankie, and that's why we started this thing together. We agree on everything.
And I'm listening to this and I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, part of the problem that we've got, some of the stuff is legacy shit that goes back to old economic and race, religious, like all that old shit, right? That we so-called are supposedly so far advanced from now today, which is untrue. I mean, we just saw, 6 months ago, 4 months ago, our nation was attacked by traitors, and there's a whole group of people that think that was okay, right? I'm like, that blows my mind, but okay. But we do have a competitive capitalist system, and it's not a free market because there's little advantages and thumbs being put on the scales to advantage certain groups over other groups. And if you've already got money, I'll just take it out of race. If you already got money, then you're encouraged in our society to advantage your children and your community by keeping that thumb on the scale. That's how you keep the money coming and rolling to your nudnik kids who get more than a second chance. They actually get like 3, 4, 5, 6 chances because you play golf with the judge. Right. And you can tell the judge on an unofficial basis, like, listen, little Timmy's not that bad. Sure, he was jerking off in the car in broad daylight, but he's a good kid.
You always come up with some crazy ass crime.
Except,
yeah, he was touching himself in front of people, but
it's from the depraved imagination. No,
he was shoving him in
I'm
his
just
ass, but
making-
he's not a bad
I'm
kid.
just making. Listen,
He was
Frank.
checking his own oil.
Yeah,
yeah. He keeps on taking
I'm
his own
running a
oil.
court.
I learned that one from this show. I'd never heard that before.
But I'm just making sure that you're listening, Steve.
Yes.
All right, but the point of the matter is like, so the system, the economic system that we got set up is almost set up, Frankie, so that, yeah, man, yeah, all those poor kids that I see on my television screen, yeah, it's bad for them. And I might even pay a little to charity in the hopes that it stays there. I don't want that to come over to where I'm at. I put my $100 on your little thing, and that should be enough to tell the forces that be that, hey, keep me out of that. How are we going to really change that, Frank? Come on, quit fucking with us.
Well, I mean, for me, it's about diversity, right? Like, if we continue to allow the colonizer, the settler, to run these systems, they're going to continue to do the boarding school thing and the fucking, the slavery thing. Like, when a kid gets locked up, it is far cheaper to divert the young person to a community-based organization with people with treatment that is community-based, trauma-informed, culturally relevant. But that means you're investing in these communities and you're employing people who look like the kid, but older. We don't want that. We want to continue to fund these multi-million, billion-dollar, enterprises that are basically for-profit in some ways, prisons, right? So public, what do you call these private interests? Whether it's the probation industry, these service providers like Geo, whatever, even Health Right, like. No offense, my man, but it's like
It's the truth.
people are benefiting. So why won't we invest in things that work when we know that they're a fraction of the cost, but they look like we're giving charity to these savage people, right? And I don't mean that, but it's just like that is
I know.
the unspoken thing. But we would trust a fucking jailer, a person who has no skill, no real value to contribute to society, except they will lock a person up that we're afraid of. We're afraid of the 17-year-old black and brown kid with tattoos from South or East LA, and we'll invest to keep them locked up. We will not invest in ways that will build them up because, and so I think, and this is not even like the silver bullet, but I think the more that we have people with those experiences being in those positions, we will improve upon our investments in ways that are more health focused, that are more humane, and are more effective than what we have now, which is a legacy of dealing with black and brown children by removing them from their communities, cutting their hair off, teaching them a new language, requiring them to conform. And when they come back, they have a hard time dealing with their environment because they were not set up for success in the free world. They were conditioned to be good prisoners, which
it took us decades to start using people who actually had been in the system to help with reentry. So how serious were we about it, right? For years, those folks couldn't get jobs in reentry, right? The cities weren't hiring them. Now, all of a sudden, we're this workforce that's going to help them with reentry. We've been around forever, right? Why haven't we used folks who've been through the system to help with people coming home?
That's just started really in the last 5 years.
But guys, Jamie, really, I mean, now take us to the next because I'll be straight. Look, I went to UC, go Bruins. I'm a fucking super liberal guy, right? I've been hearing this talk for fucking decades, bro. Decades. It's gonna change. Shit, we had a black president. It's gonna change, right? Jamie, how are we really get out? Where's the country really going to go? Jobs are changing. I mean, what the fuck? Honestly,
look, I mean,
driving me crazy.
I'm a huge believer in post-release. I think education is key to power, right? I think that folks ought to pursue education. I do work with Project Rebound. Frankie did some stuff with Underground Scholars, or was one up at Berkeley, right? I mean, 2 organizations in California that are amazing, right? I think also, though, we need to start thinking about after your bachelor's degree, right? Are you going and getting a master's in political science? Are you going and getting a law degree? Are you going and doing something like, because those are the positions that affect policy. Like it or not, right? We live in a world where the more letters after your name, the more people take you seriously. I mean, that's just the way it is in this work. And I think that, we need to start sort of opening doors for folks beyond a bachelor's degree so that we can get people in positions of policy influence like Frankie is, right? I mean, Frankie made his own position. I mean, he didn't tell you that, but I mean, he decided I want to do this thing and it didn't exist. So he created it, right? I think there's a lot of people out there that if we push them sort of to higher education, to sort of positions of influence, law degrees, things like that, I think that's how you change it. I think a critical mass of people in that world is how things start to move slowly, right? And start to change.
My feeling is, I agree with that, and I agree with what Frankie said. My feeling is this, and I'm no genius, right? I mean, I'm fucking checking my own oil.
But you're a lawyer.
I'm checking my own.
Yeah, but you're a lawyer.
Smelling my thumb.
Next best thing.
I'm smelling my thumb right now. No, but the thing that I look at is I think education is definitely the major piece of this, and I think they've diluted undergraduates. The undergraduate degree they've diluted because the schools just sprang up like fucking, and they'll take any loan money and anything to try to make some bucks, right? And all of a sudden everyone's got an undergrad, and really what you're learning in undergrad is a lot of shit you should have learned in public high school, because public high school has been fucking totally gutted, right? So my feeling is that the movement, we got to start as young as possible, and the movement's got to be something to the effect of that the American public education from kindergarten or whatever it is all the way through 12, and yes, all of us got to pay for it. I don't care if you're rich or whatever. We all got to pay some fucking taxes. Wake up and smell the goddamn coffee. That's how it's done. Is we, no matter what city, location, region you're in, if you're in an American public school, you are getting bar none the best education money can buy.
We're the richest fucking. Why can't we accomplish that?
Because of the system is set
Which means
up.
you got to pay teachers a livable wage too.
Livable.
Elementary school teachers need to make more money.
And privatization. People with money divest because we're not sending our school with those kids. So we will pay a higher premium for our private school and abandon the public school for them. And no way we're paying taxes to pay their shit.
You said that about private schools.
Let me tell you something, Steve. Let me just put a little fucking scene together for you. All right.
Please.
All right.
Please.
All right. You're fucking Bill Gates,
Mhm.
right? You're one of these big titty billionaire guys that with a fucking Kirkland pants.
Right.
Okay. You got a ton of fucking dough, right? You spend all your time beating everybody in the world. Now, life's a real son of a bitch. Why?
Mhm.
Because you got a son, Egbert, and he's a fucking idiot. But he's your son.
Right.
But he's a fucking idiot.
Mhm.
Right? Your son, Egbert, is going to have to go out and try to make his way in the world. But you know he's an idiot because you built blah, 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 blah. So how are you going to ensure that your son Egbert's going to make it? First and foremost, you're not going to help all the hungry poor kids that got some direction. You're not going to be like, yeah, I'll put some money towards public education. I'll do all that, because there's a lot of kids without anything. They got a lot to prove and they're motivated. Egbert's not motivated because he's been growing up on this giant tit. He's got everything at it. So you then go to a private school and you throw a lot of money at a private school, and that private school has guys like Frankie Guzman, who finally sold out and said, fuck it, I'm going to teach the rich people or whatever and finally cash in on all my shit. And they got Jamie, who's tired of fucking living in a one-bedroom apartment. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to go there and teach the rest of it. So you get to hire the best of the best of the best of the best to supplement your idiot kid, Egbert.
Mm.
And then he goes on to be able to get into the college you went to because you donated a wing.
Right.
Right? And so a real hungry kid like fucking Sean, fighting weight, never had nothing, has a lot to prove, and would fucking just knock it out the park, doesn't even have a chance because Egbert's fucking been pampered and pushed through this system and has had the best of everything from the very beginning. And even that might not guarantee success, but that's about as good as you're going to get to a guarantee. That's why they're letting the rest of us fucking die out in these public lands so that when we both graduate from community college or UC or Yale or Harvard, the one that graduated from Harvard's got a massive leg up. And guess what? Egbert needs that massive leg up. Otherwise, he ain't going to do shit. And you who are hungry and lean and mean and honed on the streets, you're not going to be given those same advantages. Because if you had 1/10 of that, you fucking sell right past Egbert.
Right.
Egbert will be shining your shoes, checking your oil.
Right.
Egbert became a judge.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why, right, guys?
Yep.
That's it. So that's why we got to fucking.
Wow, we have a lot of work to do.
We do. We do have a lot of work to do. And it comes from all of us taking ownership of our citizenship.
Right.
I actually think that. I've been thinking about like making an American church.
Yeah,
where,
I like that.
Where the idea is that we learn how to appreciate, even if you're not given it properly or you don't see it yet, you understand how much power you really have as an American citizen, and it means something to you that you decide, I do want to pay taxes.
I agree. And you know what I agree with, Chuman? When you say that we are, us citizens, we are the stock with the shareholders
right
of America.
We really are.
This is our country. And if we can really organize and get together, like you do things like you gentlemen are doing,
right,
we could take the power back, bro. We have the power.
We could.
We got to fix gerrymandering and we got to start voting.
That's it.
Hey, Frankie,
Yep.
when are you going to start running for office?
You know, people say that to me all the time. I don't care about most things, so I think I'd just, be a bad politician.
His political handler told him to answer these questions like that as he gets set up for state rep. He's running for state rep. Politics. I think the
Yeah,
worst.
I've never thought about
Whoa. Politics questions get routed a different way. Sorry, I was told to run interference on this.
You
Thank
guys-
Jamie. Thank you, Jamie.
Frankie has not revealed his intentions.
Just such a great, you know what? Something I was going to say earlier that I will mention right now before we get off is, and it's something like Jamie said, and I think that you have to be incarcerated and gone through the system to understand this. And I say it all the time, Chimon.
Yeah.
The county jail system, what they put you through is set up for you to take a deal and get the fuck out of there as soon as possible. That's why people will plead guilty to shit. They'll take deals that you would never take, because by the time you're wrung out and choked the fuck out and freezing cold from being moved onto the roof in a cell with 10 other guys, smelling ass, rats, no food, you'll take any deal. You've been squeezed into taking whatever they give you. And when people from the outside go, well, they don't have this. Well, they've got a pillow. They've got a blanket. They get their fresh air time. They've get law library. They get, they want to dress it up like these guys have everything they need to sit this through and fight their case out. And that's not the case, man. It's like they're strongholding you in way more ways than one. And that's one of them that really burns me out, dude. They set you up in that fucking county jail that they're going to press you until you take something.
Right.
Yeah. It's crazy. But listen, you guys, I learned so much today, man.
Jesus
off
Christ.
of this.
The
dude.
twin pillars of justice.
Dude, you guys are doing important fucking work, man. Do one at a time. Why don't you guys just let us know where you can be found? If people have questions, they want to contact you guys. How do we do that?
I'll start. I'm on the website, Cal State Long Beach. My email is up there. Phone number to reach me. Also check out the organization that Frankie and I started, CCIBA, CSIBA. The website is www.ccba.org. You can read all about what we're doing, how you can become an attorney, support systems for that. Other than that, Project Rebound at Cal State Long Beach. We'd love to have you. If you're coming out and you want to keep going with your college education, look us up. We'll take care of you.
That was Jamie speaking, just for the people that were listening. They didn't.
Yes.
That was Jamie. Okay, Frankie.
Yeah, Frankie Guzman. I'm an attorney at the National Center for Youth Law. You can find my info on www.youthlaw.org. I'm also on Facebook, but don't really check it. And I have a Twitter. Somebody handles that for me also. So
Real politics.
that guy. No, yeah, but I'm old school, man. I don't really like social media a whole lot, and I'm pretty private. I'm social but private, if that makes any sense. I like to know, but once I know you, then it's go hard, youthlaw.org. That's our website. And then Jamie said www.csiba.org is our website for our System Involved Bar Association. And for all your listeners, just know that no matter the crime you committed, you're still eligible to be an attorney. It's just, it's a little bit of the navigating the web, the tangled web. But we're here to help, and we're here to to be the example and to be a resource for folks that are serious about becoming a part of this very elite profession. But if we can do it, you can do it, and you're not alone.
100%. Look us up.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much, man, for taking the time on a Saturday to come in and share with our guests and us and teach us a lot, man. Thank you both.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Are you plugging anything, Steve?
I am plugging Underground Scholars.
Yeah.
You can do it. Listen to these guys. Reach out, man, if you want more information. www.supermaxhardware.com. Buy some gear, support us, keep your eyes open for Hard to Kill, and always listen to the Hard Luck Show on Mondays and Thursdays.
All right. And I just want to say, Ovando Bowen, LLP, we wear braids to court. We'll fucking represent you, present you, and your enemies will resent you.
Yeah.
And let me tell you also, Chumohan _ for my poetry. And somebody's putting it on shirts now, so you can actually buy a shirt with my fucking words on it.
Damn.
You want to get laid?
Get a shirt.
Get a shirt. Sean,
Speaking of shirts,
whose oil are you checking next
I'm
week?
checking my own oil.
Okay.
Hard Luck t-shirts. We still got
Hard
those,
Luck
right?
Uh,
t-shirts.
We do.
$26. Get one.
$26. Come get
26
one.
bucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hard Luck t-shirts. Okay, what else?
Hit us up.
That's
No,
it?
That's it.
Do you have a shout out for introverts or anything like that?
Sure. What's your shout out?
There's your shout out. Hey guys, I want you to both know that you got an open invitation here.
Carte blanche.
You guys, we'd love to reconvene sometime, get caught up. You guys have anything new, reach out to us. We're here, we support you, and we're
Yep.
about it, man.
Yep.
So consider us your friends, and we're here, and let's build, man. Till the next time.
Thank you. I look forward to
Thank
it.
you very much.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
Like we do about this time, you guys. Thanks again, and adios amigos from the Hard Luck Show.
Take it easy.